Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Good Stories podcast. I'm Jody, here again with Steven. Hello, brother.
Hello.
Today is special as we have a guest and a new voice on the show. We're going to get to know each other better, hopefully, during our chat today. But it's evident from what I've seen that he's got a great love for music, for Narnia, and is clearly someone who values good stories. So thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Matt Wheeler.
Well, hello. It's a joy to be here on the Good Stories podcast as your first non-family guest, I think. Interview.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, it is an honor.
Well, you were the impetus for us to learn how to do interviews because just your interest in coming on has pushed us to get on board with the technology and everything that goes into it. It's new to us, so.
Personally, I'm just really excited to have you on specifically. Before I ever got into podcasting at all, I started doing Pints with Jack, right? I started listening to that podcast extensively, and my wife knew I loved it, and so she got me the Patreon so I could do the C.S. Lewis Reading Day last year.
Yes.
And you were on the C.S. Lewis Reading Day. You performed Aravis, and I loved it. And so you were somebody who was already doing this. I wasn't even thinking about podcasting at the time. So in some ways, this is me getting to actually interview a professional because we're just winging it here. But you were there when I was just enjoying podcasts and got to be a part of that.
Oh yeah, C.S. Lewis Reading Day was so much fun, and I think I also played the Pints with Jack theme that I wrote for them. That's going to be part of their season 9 episodes, I believe, which they commissioned me to do. Yeah, and the Pints with Jack guys are just wonderful. Yeah, David and Matt and Andrew I've gotten to know actually in person a bit. He had me into Florida last year for his the C.S. Lewis Mere Christians conference, and it was just so much fun. Just like with C.S. Lewis, like where connections through C.S. Lewis just seem to like you keep meeting all these wonderful people, and there's a lot of fittingly enough the you two, I thought I was the only one moment.
Yes.
But it's also true by extension through Pints with Jack, I feel like, because Thornton Ray and his podcast, the Mere C.S. Lewis podcast, we've been in conversation. He sent me some blended loose leaf tea, it's an Aravis blend that he made, and he's going to be hosting a house concert later this year is the plan. And that's all thanks to Pints with Jack, as is this connection. And thanks to you all being on and me being aware of that, I went back and listened to episodes of your podcast and really been enjoying them. I haven't dug into the long form episode about Watership Down, but I just made on a long trip, and I have a song inspired by that as well. Yeah, it's among my tribe, even if we're like honorary cousins. So it's kind of a family thing anyway.
I agree. Podcasting in general has been super collaborative, and I keep bumping into people either online or just on Facebook or even just other podcasts that are so like-minded and just tell the same stories or love the same stories, but tell them a different way. So we definitely listen to lots of podcasts, and I learned of you through a podcast, but I will mention that later. Because first, I want to talk about why I think we should have interviews on this one. Because we do tend to just go through a story, kind of start to finish. But here, because we do like good stories, I'd like to know some about you and your personal story, and then have you share a story that means something important to you. And so that's kind of just our process and a format for doing these. So can you share a little bit about your own story? Like, where did you grow up? Did you always like to read? Do you like to read? And how did you get into music? All those kinds of things.
Sure. Yeah, it's a good format. That's wonderful. So basically, as I grew up in northern Indiana, first 14 years of my life, and then North Carolina, Virginia, and Maryland at various points. I was living in Maryland when I met my wife, Charity, actually through Harmony. And we landed here in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, because this is where her family is originally from. And now my parents live, very close by, and it's wonderful. This is home now. But so yeah, a fair amount of moving over the course of like teenage years to when I first got married. Being settled here is just lovely. I love it here. And as far as reading and such, I have always enjoyed reading. Even now, I'm not a fast reader, but I'm a very avid reader. I always have at least 2 or 3 books going at a time, and usually of various types. And often C.S. Lewis or Wendell Berry factor in, occasionally many others. But why this particular story actually dovetails nicely into that, because back in Indiana, my 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Mishler, used to read to our class, which in 4th grade maybe is like on the upper end of when like you feel like kids will still enjoy being read to, but we loved it. And she would read to us all kinds of things. I definitely remember some Old Testament stories. There are some pretty wild things in there.
Oh yeah.
True. Yes, yes.
Like, yeah, it is not for the faint of heart. Like, I seem to remember Elijah versus the prophets of Baal was one part of that, which, here's like 9 or 10-year-old me, like, whoa. But she also read to us from the Chronicles of Narnia, and I specifically remember The Horse and His Boy, which I know audio listeners won't be able to see, but I'm holding a copy of like with the 70s cover art, and which is like what I think of when I think of what the Narnia books should look like. And I recognize there are newer and older ones. The content is good either way. So I remember her specifically reading this book and really just loving the story. I admittedly, one part of it is I really liked when Mrs. Mishler would say Bree's full name, which is Bree, which is Bree Henny Brinny Hui Ha. Yes.
Well done.
I'm glad he did that because I doubted my abilities. So.
Yes. Well. Bree figured that Bree Henny Brinny Hui Ha would be a little bit much for the human boy Shasta to master, and so he concedes, okay, you can call me Bree. But yeah, I mean, there's so much about the story to love. And so when I was writing my Wonder of It All album, the songs for that, my 2021 album that's inspired by 5 different classic stories. Or books, rather. Let's see, in order if I can picture the cover art, because they're represented all there. There's The Little Prince, and there's Watership Down, The Horse and His Boy, The Hobbit, and Orthodoxy, which feels like it's one of these things doesn't belong, but it actually all works. Yeah, I remember I reread The Horse and His Boy in March of 2020. As you might recall, some things were happening in the world at that time. My rereading it, which I did in about 24 hours, because as an adult, you can go back and read the Narnia books and knock one out in a day or two if you want, just have a little bit of time. But they're so rich and wonderful. So I was rereading this one, coinciding with like, it was that weird stage in 2020 where like there was lots of extra hand sanitizer, and it's like, maybe something big's happening, we don't know, but we probably ought to get a lot of toilet paper. And so there was one, like, I got a tip about a local grocery store getting toilet paper in right before they closed, and I should come then. So I got my dad. I was like, I know you guys need some too, come along with me. And so we went, and we got 2 12-packs each and took a picture as though we were hunter-gatherers who had provided for our families. And of course then lockdown and all that unfolded. But and that was all. I only say that because it was on the same day that I was rereading this story, and that night I went to sleep secure in my amount of toilet paper in the house, and I was woken up in the middle of the night by one of our dogs whining to be left outside, and so I went downstairs and let Trixie out, and was kind of like groggily looking up at the stars, but I woke up with a melody in my head, and after I let the dog back in, quietly grabbed one of my guitars and got voice memos on my phone and just very quietly, recorded what I had, and then went back to sleep because I probably wouldn't have otherwise remembered it. And that was the kernel of what became in my song Aravis. So it was already my favorite Chronicles of Narnia book, but the story of everything kind of unfolding with the song has made it that much more entrenched as my favorite. So yeah, I think that answers both your questions in sort of a jumbled together way.
And now we're going to pair Aravis with toilet paper hunting in our mind forever. So.
Yeah. I think we should pause for a minute and just realize we're never going to make people understand that who didn't live through it. To understand, no, toilet paper was a big deal. It was crazy.
It was like
if
gold.
You didn't live through it, you just won't get it. Yeah.
It was a strange time. So good on you. And isn't that funny with inspiration? So just to be clear, what is it you do? Can you just tell us what do you do and as a job, as a career?
Sure. Well, I'm bivocational. My full-time work is at Lancaster Bible College. I work in the registrar's office. Um, as we're recording this, it's near the beginning of the fall semester. So all of our incoming on-campus undergrads, I plan and build their schedules generally. Like I put
Wow.
together what they're going to have for the 250 or so new incoming students. It's like a lot of logic puzzles, which I like. And thankfully, because I describe what I do to my wife, who's a seventh grade science teacher and probably gets this the other way. People saying like, I don't know if I could do that. It's like, yeah, I'm glad to. And yeah, and I also teach a class for freshmen there at the college. It's a lovely community, and well, I do work music in there too because I have a ukulele. I keep in my office, and for our call to prayer, I have a little jingle I wrote that I play walking up and down the hall to for us to do our prayer time on the hall, and occasionally lead worship music in chapel, and I'm a guest in the songwriting class. So it's this really interesting mix of the things that I do. And yeah, so the other part of the bivocational piece, which is fewer hours but still serious pursuits, are as a musician. I do lead worship music, and I'm a performing and sometimes touring singer-songwriter. Earlier in 25, June, I traveled to Florida for a couple of concerts, and Washington State for 4 concerts, and then Maryland not long after. So I do a bit of traveling with that, and mostly house concerts and church concerts, and basically like where it's like listening rooms of like up to 50 people, where we can all like really just experience the event together, and laugh and joke back and forth and sing along, and it's a really wonderful mixture of things. So the short answer: associate registrar and singer-songwriter.
So in my mind, you are the Narnia bard. I don't know. I'm now recognizing that that's too narrow if Orthodoxy and The Hobbit and Watership Down are on that list too. So troubadour, yes?
Yeah,
A modern day troubadour.
I'll take that. Like, if you look at my various versions of my bio, there's like, poet with a guitar, and troubadour is makes an appearance.
It's a good word.
Yeah, I totally agree. It feels kind of medieval. I feel like C.S. Lewis would be happy with that. Like, if I was going, instead of saying singer-songwriter, he'd probably be like, "You mean you're a troubadour, right?" Yes, you're right, C.S. Lewis.
When did you get into music?
How did I get into music?
Yeah, when did you always know you wanted to play and write songs and sing, or how did you come across that?
No, is the short answer. No, because I've always enjoyed music, and I've especially enjoyed words. So it wasn't. I played oboe when I was young, and gave that up. Mrs. Mishler, actually. Mrs. Mishler was one of my influences, encouraging me to stay with that until like adulthood, because like there are only so many oboists around. Like, you could really, write your ticket into a,
Yeah.
Symphonies need them.
yeah, exactly. And so seventh grade me, but 3 years later was kind of like, or sixth grade, whenever that was, singing chorale one year in high school, and that was about it until some point in college. Like, a bunch of my friends were musicians. So for fun, they would want to go to like music stores and pawn shops downtown, and admire the Marshall half stacks and talk about like the action on guitars and stuff like this. And like, I didn't know at first what they were talking about, but I learned, and I picked up bass, and then a combination when I was writing poetry in college already. Like, not that I was showing anyone, but I just enjoy how words fit together and flow and sound. But along the way, like after bass, I eventually picked up a very cheap, from one of these pawn shops, actually, a $60 Gremlin brand guitar. I've never seen another one since, and it was a terrible guitar, but it did what it needed to do to get me started. And yeah, I remember I saw Phil Keaggy play in concert while I was in college at Liberty University, and he's the kind of guitarist who will make you either want to try playing guitar or never try it, because he's so good and you can never be that good. And still, it's like he and I play different instruments, and I'm okay with that. And I remember also, though, around the same time, seeing this trio of young ladies busking outside of the laundromat at college. I remember they were playing the song Wonderwall, the Oasis tune.
I remember that
You know,
song.
today is gonna be the day. That one, yeah. Yeah, I guess they were raising like money, like change to do their laundry or something. I don't know. But yeah, the combination of those the folkegi and the busking thing, yeah, which busking, for those who don't know the term, is basically just playing music out in like a non-music setting in public. Just like you see people playing on the streets or in the subway, like they're busking. Yeah, so that's what they were doing, and I was like, huh, I feel like I could do that. So I started playing guitar and beginning to put it together with the poetry to write songs. It wasn't until we moved to Pennsylvania years later, though, after I'd written some songs, that I really dug into like regularly playing original songs in front of other people. So, I sort of accidentally became one of the organizers for a monthly church coffee house event and leading the house band, which we sort of accidentally formed. And it accidentally ended up being a lot of fun and success and a learning experience. So, yeah, I'd say the start of my music career, such as it is now, was like January of 2012, when I was 32 years old, which is such an age that people are usually, they've quit their punk bands and they're starting families. And I just, like, my wife and I got married in 07 and our son was born in 09. And then I started, which is part of the reason why I don't write like Taylor Swift style breakup songs. Mine tend like,
That's okay.
yeah, there's other people doing that. Like the song Aravis I was referring to before is, it's a love song, but it's one of many examples of love songs that I've written that are like about the part of a relationship after the romantic comedy movie has ended. Like they get you to like the lead up to the marathon and then the starting line and the starting gun and off you go. But there's a lot of life, a lot of race metaphorically after that, which I find far more fascinating and substantial. So yeah, Aravis is one of those songs, and I found my niche with songs that are inspired by classic works of literature. I mean, you heard me mention some of the authors. Wendell Berry, his short stories are the inspiration for my most recent album, as of right now, called A Hard History of Love. And Barry's still around. I got to meet him. It's an interesting story
Cool.
in itself. But so it's all sort of been very incremental. If you ask me when I was starting college, if I'd be doing what I'm doing now with music, I would never have guessed it. But here I am, and God has a sense of humor and opens a lot of wonderful doors.
I like that it all happens by accident, accidentally this. So like that's kind of how next steps happen. That's how we're interviewing you right now.
Well, it looks accidental on our side, but I frequently use the word providential or providentially because it's like, just because I didn't recognize that at the time doesn't mean there wasn't a larger plan. It just means that I didn't orchestrate it myself, but which is all kinds of grounds for gratitude, because it's like people sometimes are like, how did you wind up doing what you're doing or playing this amazing concert or, alongside this songwriting hero of yours? It's like, well, I got open some doors and I just was willing to, ask or be open to it. And here we are.
You can be like, it all started with toilet paper. So.
Well, I had released I had released it like a couple of albums before that ever happened. So the toilet paper was more of like a stepping stone to greater things later on. But
it's a catalyst.
Okay, very important question. Do you name your guitars?
I really haven't. I name my cars,
okay.
Which is probably good they don't name my guitars because so my main guitar now is a Martin. I guess I could call him Marty. But yeah, I sold my former Martin guitar to and a Fender Stratocaster electric guitar to buy the nicer Martin I have now. So I know people name their guitars sometimes. B.B. King famously calls his guitar Lucille, but no, not so much.
I was just wondering if that's like actual musicians tend not to, and hobby, I'm a hobby player. I do not play well, but I love my guitar. And she does have a name. She is Dolly Kopp. She's named after a river. I drove over in New Hampshire. But it just makes me happy to look at her because I don't always play it. So I wondered if it was just hobby players that name them.
Hobby players and blues legends like B.B. King. It's, I mean, and Willie Nelson too. His guitar Trigger is, a famous example. I think naming things like, well, in the Little Prince, actually, like, there's like with the story with the fox, and there is there's a lot of, like when you name something, or like, or an animal, like it's your pet, like it's this whole other dimension. I mean, Rich Mullins had this encouragement to people to like learn the names of the trees and the birds in their neighborhood, and like that, like how it like dignifies things. I mean, it kind of goes back to the original job Adam and Eve were given, to name the animals. And oh, and then Rich Mullins also would say, it's also good to get to know the names of your neighbors too.
Yeah.
So naming things is good. I mean, I call occasionally, I don't do this often, but I do call our home the wheelhouse, because Wheeler, it just makes sense.
Yeah, that works.
I get it.
But no, I've not named my guitar, but maybe one of these days I will.
They'll just be Marty. Marty 1, Marty 14. Just go down the
They're all
line.
Marty. Yeah.
Well, my car is Sonic 2, so, and I had a Chevy Sonic that is called Sonic, and then the Sonic 2 is blue, like the other one was orange, and this one's blue, like Sonic the Hedgehog. So it all makes sense. What were you going to say, Stephen?
Well, I love that you just mentioned Rich Mullins, because I'm a huge fan. As I've been listening to your stuff extensively, I hear a lot of that in you. That seems like he's probably an influence.
Oh,
I hear
very
a lot
much.
of folk. I hear a lot of blues. But I was curious if you could speak to, I mean, do you consciously think of these things, or is this just part of what formed you? Or
Yeah, I mean, I think to some extent, whenever you make any kind of art, if it's music or writing, or like you're drawing from all the different reference points you have, like whether you realize it or not, even if it's subconsciously, your influences may show through. Although there are times that I've, like written a song and been like, I want this to be in the style of like, I don't know, like James Taylor or Counting Crows or something else, like especially early on when I was trying to figure out what I was doing. And occasionally that's still true. Like, yeah, I've heard of like the idea of inspiration boards, where it's like you kind of get a few ideas, like, oh, well, this is kind of what I want, like say the cover art of an album to look like, or here's, or like an audio version of that, where it's like the feel of this song is kind of what I'm aiming for, or something like that. So I might pull like a Josh Ritter song and kind of be like, I want to take this approach with it. Actually, that's true of Aravis. Josh Ritter's song "The Curse," which is a story about a mummy reviving to life and falling in love with the archaeologist who discovered him, which which is actually like it works better and is more compelling than that sounds like it is. But it's also like just comes across as sort of bookish, which maybe is part of the reason why I think it works. But yeah, I mean, part of it is just like the way that he like the way that he sets up the verses in chorus, and like the way he tells the story is like, I think that's kind of the way direction I want to go. Certainly, yeah, Rich Mullins shines through a fair amount of James Taylor, who I mentioned before. Actually, I play a couple of my chords oddly because I'm self-taught. Like the way I play a D is, I found out later after just doing the way I do, because I couldn't do the other way. I read an interview that James Taylor did, and like he was talking about some of his unconventional idiosyncrasies, and one of them was how he plays a D chord. And I'm like, that's what I do. I feel so justified because James Taylor does this. Like, you're someone legit who actually does that. So yeah, and there's others like Andrew Peterson, the Grey Havens, Josh Garrels, John Mark McMillan, Sandra McCracken. Like Paul Simon. When I went and see him on his farewell tour, it was like a pilgrimage, because I think, and Rich Mullins for sure. Like, my favorite song by anyone is Rich Mullins' song "Calling Out Your Name." And the opening lines are, well, the moon moved past Nebraska and spilled laughter on them cold Dakota hills. Like, we literally have one sentence, and you have just like spun this whole world. It's world building in this, in the miniature. Like, you just put a few different things together, and there's something really special to that. And I aim to do that. Like, my song "Wonder of It All" is clearly very much inspired by that song. And Andrew Peterson's song, "Don't You Want to Thank Someone," and G.K. Chesterton's "Orthodoxy," because these are all things that are just some of my favorites. Yeah, I think that unless you're purposely trying not to, that tends to be what happens. And I think it's really good, because then what comes out isn't the exact same as any of those. It's just there's some, like, it ends up being, I put those things together into the song "Wonder of It All," and yet it's my own voice that comes through, and with obvious hints flavor notes, so to speak, of those other artists. And I think that's good. I mean, I don't think you really can't make something totally original, and like the medievalists, or people in the medieval times wouldn't have even tried. It would have been like, all right, here's the great tradition, here are the great stories, and here's what I'm going to add to it, adding my voice to the grand chorus. So I think I answered your question, but I certainly named off a lot of favorite, name dropped a lot of my favorite artists.
No, I love that. That's part of what I've really enjoyed about podcasting. We've done, I don't know, 35 or so episodes. Stories overlap with other stories constantly.
Oh, yeah.
You just kind of blend and you see more themes and connections as you go. And that's part of what I enjoy talking about with Steven, because he's read way more than I have. I mean, I read a lot. He reads a lot. And he remembers it all and can bridge it together. So I like to think of us in our kind of podcasting in general as story bridging, because you do. It takes other pieces of your life and other things you've read, other content or music or art, and puts it together. So it's funny, telling the story about the mummy, falls in love with his finder or whatever. I found that with telling the story of Watership Down. If you try to summarize it to like a line, you're like, well, it's a story about bunnies.
Right.
Right. There are these rabbits, and they go on an epic quest, and there's a bad guy.
You're like, no, it's really good.
And there's a prophet, and
Yeah. So if you try to summarize an elaborate story too much, you definitely lose a lot. You're like, no, truly, there's more to it. It's really good.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I've heard too. I don't even remember the source of this. The idea, of most of these songs, they're inspired by works of literature. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to tell all the story of The Hobbit, let's say, in 3 minutes. What I'm trying to do is draw on like a scene. If it's one very large, very busy painting, it's like I'm taking a little 3x3 frame and just putting it over this one part and be like, what about this part? Let me tell a story of that. And that's what I'll do. Or in the song "The Way We Are," I focus on one particular quote from Wendell Berry's short story. You're right. Definitely about Watership Down. I've certainly felt the same thing. I played at a refugee benefit event recently and played my song from that called "The Road and the Common," based on the chapter by the same name in Watership Down. And I gave the 30,000 foot summary of these rabbits live in a warren, and one of them gets a sense something terrible is going to happen to their warren, and only a few of them listen, and something terrible does happen, but the ones who listened are trying to make it to a new home. They don't know where, and it's nighttime, and there are things that want to eat rabbits, and it's harrowing. But then I turn around and be like, listen to the song itself, what I'm actually saying, and it could be from the mouth of a refugee or someone who's estranged from their family or someone who's had devastating news or whatever. Well, I wasn't so much trying to make it about rabbits, though if you know the story, it makes it richer. Or maybe I point you to the story and you check it out, and that's mission accomplished in its own way too. But it's more it's like an adaptation. It's like what made this, what makes this scene and this story compelling. Let me see if I can distill that and translate it into a language that I speak, with songwriting. And maybe someone who doesn't want to sit down with the 200-page book, but they're at a concert and they hear me play a 3.5 minute song. They're like, whoa, that was really good. Where did that come from? It's well, there was this story. Yeah. And I also feel like it helps because writing about literature gives me a prompt to write from. And I have a lot going on in my life at any given time, whether it's, being a husband, father of a teenager with special needs, full-time worker at a college, all my music stuff. My parents needed more help recently. It's a kind of sandwich generation thing, and then leading worship music and things. So it's if I have a particular prompt where it's this is what I'm going to write about, or it's I think I want to make an album about, this novel by Wendell Berry or The Wind in the Willows, which might be something I do. We'll see. It's all right, I've got a prompt, I have some source material, so let me work with that rather than just what autobiographical thing can I pull out that will be compelling as a song. I mean, I always put a lot of myself and my own story into the songs, in some way, even if it's unconscious. But that's part of the reason why the approach that I've taken the last couple albums, especially, I think has worked really well.
Yeah, I think it has. So, I mean, just one listener's opinion, the way you described that is perfect. That idea of painting the flavor, of painting the scene. I mean, obviously, I'm a big Watership Down fan, and that wrote in the comment. I have it written down on my paper here because I love that one so much. It really does paint that picture. And as someone who's read the book, when you say Silver's name in it, it makes me excited, but you don't have to have that. And then it's just beautiful in its own right. I mean, the instrumental versions of it you do are fantastic as well. So I do love that because you're right. You would choke on it if we tried to do the whole thing. We barely fit Watership Down into a 3-hour podcast, and we skipped a lot.
Right.
And so the fact that you can do a couple minutes and give that flavor of it, I think is a gift. I really do appreciate that, and I've enjoyed that very much.
Well, thank you. Thanks. Yeah, like it's the other thing too. I think it was Denison Whitmer, who's another one of my favorite singer-songwriters, and who's actually native of this area in Pennsylvania. I remember at that first concert that I opening for him was like what I counted as like the start of my music career, and I remember him basically saying like, not like my music's not for everyone. Some people might think it's like boring or like too like in its own head or something. And he's like, I don't care about that. I'm writing songs I like, and there's like a niche of people who enjoy it too. It's like, yeah, I'd rather go ahead and have a clear vision of what is I want to do, and have, even if it's like a smaller group of people along with me, than just trying to write something for everyone. Yeah, they just grow where you're planted, and lean into your own strengths and giftings and what makes you come alive. And I think that's so much better than just like trying to write the next pop hit.
Oh, totally agree. And creating anything is so hard. It is so easy to break down, to criticize, to complain, to comment on other people's stuff, but to actually produce something and put it out there and say, I've made this, that is so hard to do. And I am so grateful for people who do it. And I think we talked about the stories being interlaid and this idea of kind of the stew of stories, as Tolkien talks about. And in that book where that essay where he's describing it, he goes into this concept of us as sub-creators.
Absolutely.
That part of the way we mirror our creator is that we create under him. But that's an active thing that takes work, and it's hard, and it draws criticism, but it's so much more valuable than the critical stuff. So again, I really appreciate what you're doing on this.
It's a pleasure. Yeah, it's a vulnerable thing to put a piece of yourself out there for everyone to. I mean, it's a bit like, if a song is like a metaphorical child of yours, it's like you're launching it out into the world, and it's going to take on its own life. I've certainly found that sometimes like songs that other people dig aren't necessarily the ones of my own that I would have thought that they would, but yeah, actually the Road in the Common is one that frequently is requested, but I don't otherwise tend to play it live a lot. Not like I don't like it. It's just, well, I'm glad that struck a chord with you. And
we still don't know why our James Harriet podcast is the most downloaded.
No, we did one episode on All Creatures Great and Small, and it is far and away the most popular. We don't know why. We just did the same thing we always do. But something about it, it's really special, I guess. I don't know.
You never know what people are going to pick up on. I also, I guess this probably seems on brand, is I also run a page called Random Facts with Matt on Facebook and Instagram. And has a much bigger following on Facebook, like, I don't know, 11,000 or so people last I saw. And like, I'll post things that I think are like really good random facts. And occasionally I'll post one where it's like, this seems good enough to post, but I don't know, okay. And then like it'll get shared by, I guess, enough people, or people where it really strikes a chord, or like one of them, it was like with like an Animal Crossing group or something. It was about crinkle walls. It's like these single layer brick walls in certain parts of Sussex, England. They're kind of like, they're wavy looking, but the reason is, besides just aesthetic, it actually makes it such that like structurally it's in better shape, because like it kind of leans on itself. And like it had, I don't know, like a couple hundred likes or something, and then like I woke up the next day and it was like a few thousand, and I was like, what happened? And someone told me, oh, it was on this Animal Crossing group, the one about apple cheese, which is a really fascinating food. Caught on.
Well, now you got to tell us about apple cheese. What?
I'm intrigued.
Man, yeah, like it's this Man, I feel like I don't need to look it up to actually remember much about it. I remember it, like, for one thing, it looks kind of black, like it's very dark. It's like I want to say maybe it was made kind of like a British or Scottish pudding, where it's like you put all these things in a bag and it
Mm.
boils, and there's no cheese actually involved. But when you actually like this whole thing is like transformed through whatever preparation technique that you can slice it off like cheese. Anyway, for whatever reason, people really dug that. Or like there was a Hamilton fact recently that I kind of get why that one took off. It had to do with why it is that Lin-Manuel Miranda used rap. One of the reasons he fit in like 2 or 3 times more words than most Broadway musicals have, and was able to do it because that was the art form of music that he used. Yeah, but I never can tell. So I just go ahead and put things out there, and that I think are pretty good, and see what happens. And it's true with music too. I try to write something I think is going to be compelling, and that I'll want to listen to as well, especially the instrumental versions of the songs. I frequently listen to while I'm working, or I guess if you don't like your own music, the thing you've made, then like why would you expect anyone else to? I suppose it's that creating things, sub-creating. I definitely resonate with that, and it's wonderful. Like all these doors open, these things you wouldn't have thought, and it's exercising that muscle is really good and healthy, and I believe God made us to do that. Whatever our creative work is, including if it's like raising your kids or doing your accounting work or whatever, you can do it for the glory of God, and you can find creative ways to do it. So it all matters.
Yeah, I'm curious if you have any moments that come to mind after a performance or something where someone, I don't know, shared that your song really impacted them, or how they saw a story differently. If they had read the story and then heard your snippet song, if that changed something for them.
So one interesting thing about the most recent album, writing an album inspired by Wendell Berry's short stories is a lot of, unlike some of those other stories I mentioned, like, The Hobbit or Narnia stories, a lot of times people don't know who Wendell Berry is. And so it's me getting to introduce them to my favorite author who's still writing today, and why I think he's important, and what he has to say is meaningful. And so I have many, many times gotten the question like, wow, I feel like I gotta start reading some Wendell Berry. Where should I start? And the Pints of Jack guys, I think, have said they've gotten that sort of question about Lewis as well, and that's good. A more autobiographical song that I released fairly recently, called "Worn Thin," was about a time that my wife was dealing with what was the 7th and the 8th different surgeries she needed to have. And around the same time, I got news that my mom had breast cancer. And it was like, just this idea of this lamenting prayer, like, God, I just feel worn thin. But also, like, later, that being shaped into this idea that that the perceived space between us and God tends to get worn thin when someone's comforts are worn away. It's like the Celtic Christian idea of thin places. So that's one that it seems I've heard that I think has resonated with people. Didn't know what to do with the diagnosis is one of the lines in the first verse, and it's like I think a lot of people can probably understand that. But one of the best, to directly answer your question, Jody, one of the best that I can remember hearing recently was when I played a concert. It was the last one of the ones I played out in Washington State near Seattle. And it was a mom and her kids and various other friends and such, and I thanked the family for hosting, and the mom, MC Mumford, so if she's listening, hi. She told me that I think it was the next day, like she didn't find her daughter immediately, and then when she did, she found that she was reading the Chronicles of Narnia, and she was inspired to pick them up again because of hearing me talk about it and then play a song from that. And it's like, all right, yeah, if I'm pointing
Yes.
people to good stories, I mean, I want to tell them myself too, but I feel like so much of what I wind up doing, and I'm glad to, is telling other people like, hey, here are some really good stories that you should check out, and hopefully they do, and sometimes they do just that.
I get it. That's what we do too.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
a different way, but it is super fun. Like my kids have picked up books and stories that kind of nudged them for years, and they didn't touch them. And then They hear a song or a podcast or something, and that is the trigger really to make them pick it up. Like it is really good because it builds on itself. It's that stew, that soup, where good stories go together for sure. I actually heard you speak first on another podcast. They were talking about Leaf by Niggle, which we did, and so that I hadn't heard their podcast before, but we done Leaf by Niggle, so I was just going to listen because it is a great story. And you mentioned Gonzo the Great.
Yes.
And that was the moment I'm like, this guy's a winner.
She texted me and said, you should listen to this. It's pretty good. And he mentions Gonzo.
Oh, yes.
Big fan of the Muppets right here. So.
Huge. We love them.
So I had to bring that up. Do you have, I know you've done a couple songs from the Muppets.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite Muppet, a favorite character? I don't know. I just want to know.
Yeah. So, well, in the podcast you're talking about, the Inklings Variety Hour was also the fruit of being involved with C.S. Lewis Reading Day. It's one of the last couple of years. Chris Pipkin was on, I think both those years maybe, and started a conversation from there. And I've appeared on his podcast a few times now. And so it was him and me and Ned Bustard, who is the phenomenal visual artist who did the cover art for my last two albums, the Lina Cut print work. And so the three of us were talking about Leaf by Niggle. And then I went back and listened to the Good Stories take on Leaf by Niggle, which is a story I don't get tired of. It's honestly some of Tolkien's best. And of course, it's so accessible too. Groundhog Day is my favorite film ever. But my second favorite film is the Muppet movie. And like the original 1979 one, which is about the same age as I am. And then Nacho Libre, I would say, is probably third. And then because my wife and I watched it when we were dating, and we still quote it almost every day. Actually, that's part of my birthday plans coming up here. Is we're going to go to a botanical garden with our son, and then we're going to watch Nacho Libre. But anyhow, it continues to just be a ton of fun. But yeah, I mean, the Muppet movie itself, like, you know, it's this epic journey, of course, and yeah, I would say Gonzo the Great probably is my favorite because his song, I'm going to go back there someday. I covered that one.
It's so good.
If listeners go and find it, it's, my version of that, produced by my friend Stephen Courtney, who played a bunch of the other instruments on there. And, I mean, that song, and for anyone who hasn't listened to it or hasn't listened to it in a while, I highly recommend, you can check out my version if you want, or the original. And, I don't know the songwriters were thinking about like heaven and the new creation, but they could have been. They certainly were getting at like the surprised by joy, Sehnsucht kind of longing. Like, I've never been there, but I know the way. Part heaven, part space, or have I found my place? My favorite line though is in the third verse where Gonzo sings, "There's not a word yet for old friends who've just met." And I find that especially in like some of these different Christian faith and arts spaces, in-house concerts and things like that, like I'm constantly making new old friends. Like I love that idea where it's like, we already have all of this, oftentimes a common bond of faith in Christ, but also an appreciation for creative work and a curiosity and wonder that I think is one of the signatures of like a lot of people where I feel like I connect around that. So yeah, Gonzo, if nothing else for that very song, but I mean, what a great character. I mean, moving right along is such a ton of fun as well, but
yeah,
not as deeply thoughtful, but still a lot of fun. So
I love a bear in his natural habitat, a Studebaker.
Oh man, yeah,
It's so good.
Admittedly, there are parts of that movie that have aged better than others, but most of the really great comedy bits really have. And
yeah, Steve Martin as a waiter never gets old.
Wearing lederhosen,
sniff the bottle cap.
It's a great movie.
Smells
Everybody
good.
watch
Smells
it.
Good. Yeah, or when they finally make it to the executive's office, and Kermit and the crew are like we're here to be rich and famous, and I think it's Orson Welles like looks at them over his cigar, and he like takes a few moments, then goes over to the intercom and says, like, please draw up the standard rich and famous contract for the Muppets, or something like that. It's so good, and it's tremendous stuff. So yeah, like, and if you come to one of my concerts, if I ever get out to Idaho or we see each other somewhere else along the way, like, you might hear me play, you might hear me reference like Victor Hugo and Francis of Assisi and Gonzo the Great and Vanilla Ice and Paula Abdul and uh also and Tolkien. Like,
Mhm.
it's
It's the stew of story.
yeah,
It
exactly.
makes
I mean,
perfect sense.
there's I like to be lighthearted and have fun, but like, some of the deeper, more serious things, I think, like, it all goes together. And maybe not always in the same song, but it's like, in the course of a concert, absolutely. In the course of a life, definitely.
Well, and the Muppets are fantastic storytellers, for
Yes.
sure. So, Stevie, can you share with us your favorite Muppet? I know the answer. So.
Rizzo the Rat.
Oh, now I'm
No.
doubting myself.
Oh, I thought you knew.
I assumed it would be Kermit.
You always say Miss Piggy.
Oh, well, yeah. It's not so much that she's my favorite. She's just perfect. She is a lady. She is wonderful.
Sorry, can you name the most perfect Muppet?
Miss Piggy. Undoubtedly.
Gonzo is wonderful. Have you seen, Matt, the Muppet Family Christmas? It was a Christmas special from the 1980s.
So do you mean with John Denver?
No, this one was a new discovery for us, and I haven't found it like on a disc or anything. We usually YouTube it. It's called Muppet Family Christmas, and when it plays, there's still like the news feed coming on after it, sort of thing. So I think it was just an on air, but it is charming. The whole gang, including the Sesame Street gang, ends up going back to Fozzie's mother's house for Christmas, and shenanigans ensue, and they sing carols, and it is wonderful. So. Definitely been added to our annual watch list at Christmas.
It has one of my favorite lines from the Muppet. It's from Rolf, where when Rolf arrives, he sits down at the piano and it's really out of tune, and he says, "I love out of tune pianos." Oh, it's really good, and they play a Christmas carol. So,
Oh, man.
highly recommend the Muppet Family Christmas.
I feel like I've seen that somewhere around. Like, 2 years ago, I think it was. I did watch Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. That was
Yeah.
that was I mean, I have the title exactly right, but that was the first time I'd seen that, and it was pretty great. I mean, every Christmas Eve we listened to around the Wheeler household. We listened to John Denver and the Muppets Christmas Together. Like, if we're listening to that album, it must be Christmas Eve. Like, it could be other times, I guess, but like, if it's Christmas Eve, that's clearly on. And actually, Jody, quick sidetrack back over to Groundhog Day. Maybe my favorite line in Groundhog Day is when Bill Murray's character Phil is like, he's taking piano lessons, and of course the teacher doesn't know that he's been there maybe thousands of times. He sits down and starts playing this beautiful Rachmaninoff piece, and and the teacher's like, my Mr. Connors, you're sure you said this is your first lesson? And he says, well, my father was a piano mover. It's like just such a perfect joke. It clearly wouldn't make sense, but he acts like just explains it all. And yeah, I mean, like, that's totally my brand of humor. And so oh, and another reason Gonzo, though, is because he also plays Charles Dickens in the Muppet Christmas Carol, which
Yes.
That one's very good.
I watched for the first time maybe somewhere in the last 5 years. Like, the Rabbit Room community, which I got involved in like 2019. There was a lot of talk about that among them, and I was like, I guess I just never really watched this one, and it's so good. Now it's an every year thing, and yeah, the great Gonzo as Charles Dickens, and his sidekick Rizzo the Rat. Such good narrators.
It is by far the best visual representation of that book. I mean, I love the original Dickens Christmas Carol. I mean, passionate about it. I think it's wonderful. I think it's the best thing Dickens ever wrote. But the Muppets version of it, it's so good.
It is. It's yeah. Because I mean, there's like the heart wrenching, difficult stuff, and the fact that Michael Caine plays the role with utter seriousness, as like it's not at all ridiculous that he's in this world of all these people and Muppets. Fun Easter egg on that, in the scene at the end, the redeemed Scrooge, as he's singing about having a grateful heart, one of the storefronts in the back says Micklewhites. That's his actual last name.
Really?
Here's
Oh,
a
I
random
didn't know
fact
that.
for you. Yeah, so his name is actually Maurice Micklewhite, but his stage name is Michael Caine. Um, so a little nod to his actual name in there. Next time you watch it, look for that at the end, and you'll be like, "Wait, there it is."
Yeah,
Um,
that's awesome.
All right. Well, I was hoping that you would share a story that means something to you. And you did give us a nod ahead, so we too read it. But can you share with us a story that meant something to you as a kid and clearly still does today?
we're talking about the horse and his boy here, right?
I hope so.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
okay,
That's the one I read.
okay. I figured that was a story we were talking about. I know there were others I read, but I mean, talked a little bit before about why this one is how it got to be my favorite Narnia book. But going back and rereading it, like it's a bit of a side quest. Like it's only one of the Narnia books that takes place entirely within the world of Narnia and the surrounding countries. Um, but and the Pevensies, some of the Tumnus, like they show up, but they're side characters. Shasta and Bree making their initial flight, for freedom, and then running into Aravis, or like them fleeing across the desert, or them getting separated in the city, or I mean, there's so many good like adventure pieces, but they're like there's such humor, like the Grand Vizier and how he like he's supposed to be this big important person, but he like grovels before the Tisroc, and how Lasarline like acts like she's best buddies with the Tisroc, but then like cowers at the prospect of being discovered by him at the one point in the book. Anyway, the flight across the desert, but yeah, I mean, of course, there's the scene. There's a scene in the woods where, Shasta. Everyone else seems to be in safety, but he has to go to Anvard, and he feels like he's the unluckiest boy in the whole world, and starts crying, and then feels the breath, feels this deep voice close by him, and then just out of fear and anger says, "Who are you? Won't you leave me alone?" And the voice says, "One who has waited long for you to speak." And and goes on to say, "Tell me your sorrows." And that whole scene of just like this numinous encounter that Shasta, whose real name is Kor, we find out later, is just so beautiful. And like one of the things I like about the story, because we don't tend to get this a whole lot in real life, is there are numerous points where Aslan like sits characters down and tells them, "Oh, here's why this happened, and here's why that happened." I won't tell them about what happens in other people's stories, but he says, it's a bit like Jesus with the resurrected Jesus on breakfast on the beach with his disciples, and and Peter's like, "Well, what about my friend John here?" And Jesus is like, "Yeah, that's between me and him. I've got your story for you." Like I think that Lewis was pretty clearly, hearkening to that there. So it's such a rich and just it's such a, I think, a pretty perfect story. You have this unlikely hero or heroes, really, when you count Aravis in there too. You have you have someone who actually is royalty and doesn't know it. Spoiler alerts. I won't say more than that if you haven't read the book, but
Oh, we do spoilers all the time.
Yeah, we spoil everything.
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Go
I mean, the book was published a long time ago, so hopefully you've had a chance to check it out. And if you haven't, you'll see what I mean. And there's there's adventure, there's redemption, there's humor, all packed into this really concise package, and it's just beautiful, and which is why I decided to write a song based on this specific Narnia book. I've tinkered with writing other Narnia songs. I haven't done it yet, but there may be others to come at some point. Who knows?
Oh, an Aslan song.
No.
Oh, man.
In some way, aren't they all Aslan songs?
They are, exactly. Oh, man.
No, I love that you chose this story because this is one of my all-time favorites. And it is, you're right, in many ways, it's perfect. It's just such a good story in its own right. But then, like all great tales, it has all these different layers. The fact that we have Aslan moving and influencing from the beginning but we don't know it till the end.
Mm-hmm.
What a lesson is that for our
Absolutely.
lives and for when we're going through hard times? And it's portrayed so, so well. I also love just the homeliness of it. When he gets to have breakfast with the dwarves,
Yes.
one of my favorite scenes ever, where he's talking about the smell of bacon and eggs and mushrooms cooking, and they're just having this meal at home, and then one of them has to draw straws to wash up. I mean, he includes it all in there, and it's just so fantastic. And he does a great job with pacing on it, because that follows right after that incredibly powerful scene you referenced, where he gets to meet Aslan,
Mm-hmm.
where he gets to have this great reveal, and then he switches to this very lighthearted but deep in a different way, deep in a very kind of heart personal homey way, which is just so, so good. I mean, I love the story. I love the poetry. I love the Calormene poetry
Mm.
that's just terrible, but full of these just witty aphorisms and lessons of life. And at the end, where the children realize they're about to hear some poetry, and they brace themselves for it,
Like, oh no.
but then it's not poetry of lessons, it's poetry of story.
Mm.
They get to hear story and song and moving things that speaks to them. And so this thing they were fearing becomes a joy. And it's a great way of contrasting cultures. The other thing about I'm glad you picked this one was this is kind of the book I use to determine whether I'm going to be able to have a meaningful conversation with someone about C.S. Lewis. Because if you mention this book, usually the what most people will say is, "Yeah, I like that when I was a kid, but he's so racist, so sexist, and so mean when he scratches Aravis." And the moment I hear that from somebody, I realize, okay, we can be friends, but we're not going to have a meaningful conversation here, because that's just not it. There's so much deeper and better and richer into this book. So I love that you love it.
Yeah, well, and even those accusations, it's like, have you actually read the entire book? Like, um,
No, they have not.
and recently, like, do you realize that like one of like the co-hero of this book is female and is Calormene?
Right?
Yeah, but what you were saying about the dwarfs too, it like I think this kind of is a theme throughout is like part of the wonder of that, besides all the sensory goodness, like even if you do know all of the things that they've had, like the mushrooms and eggs and bacon and all that, like all of that was foreign to Shasta. He didn't know what any of it was, and so there's all this discovery, and like you said about the poetry, about how like they discovered like, oh, it isn't just what I thought. Like there's this whole other broader definition that is so much better. And the thing with the dwarfs, I think, is maybe the best is like when Shasta's like out cold asleep because he's just totally worn out from his adventure across the desert, and how the Lewis talks about how the dwarfs like they were like they were trying to be quiet, but they were so noisy that they would have woke him up if he wasn't just out asleep just from being exhausted.
Yeah.
But I just picture them kind of clumsy, like tiptoeing around and like bumping into things like, oh, sorry, I'll let you sleep. I'll just one more thing. Oh, I'm sorry. And I expanded on that a good bit when I talked with Chris Pipkin. We were actually going to do the second half. We were going to review the second half of The Horse and His Boy in one podcast. If you look at their feed, that actually is 3 podcasts for just the second half of the book, because there was just so much to talk about. And we both enjoy the book so much that it was like, oh, but remember that part? Hey, there was that we didn't talk about. And like, what about the deeper themes on that? And how like Lasarline, as much as she's like, you could say like, oh, well, it's kind of like Lewis bashing this whole girly girl idea. It's like, well, no, not really. She actually is a really helpful character in spite of
Yeah, she
herself.
saves Aravis.
Yeah, like if it wasn't for her, like everything else would have fallen apart. Yeah, she's preoccupied with all the social stuff, but she's a better-hearted, better in general character than you might initially think. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's so many memorable characters in the story in general. And yeah, obviously the appearances of Aslan. And well, of course, there's the Hermit of the Southern March is such a such a fascinating character. One of my favorite things is where basically Aravis exclaims like, "Wow, what luck we've had!" and the Hermit says something to the effect of, Like I've been around 109 winters and I've never seen such a thing as luck. Like basically
Hmm.
there's no luck, Aravis. It's actually like there is a larger plan, and it's so well done.
So, brother, I didn't ask you to do it on this one. Do you have a plot summary? Can you wing it?
I could wing one. No, I
Yeah,
did not prepare a plot
just for
summary for
someone,
this.
maybe between the two of you could do it. Just for someone who hasn't
Yeah.
read it, just kind of the big
Yeah, I think I
chunks of the
can.
story. Let's do a accelerated kind of walk through.
Here we are. The Horse and His Boy is a story that takes place during the golden years of Narnia when Peter is High King and his brother and sisters are kings and queens under him. But the story doesn't start in Narnia. It starts in the foreign nation of Calormen, where a little boy is raised by a fisherman, but not in a kind way. The little boy wants to know what's north of him and is told to ignore that. But one day, when a great knight called a Tarkan comes with his horse, the boy realizes he's about to be sold into slavery. While he's lamenting this, he talks with the horse, and to his shock, the horse responds back that he can talk, that he is a talking Narnian horse, and he proposes that they escape to Narnia and the north. The horse Bree and the boy Shasta then meet up with another unlikely pair, a young Tarkina woman who is fleeing a forced marriage with her friend talking horse, Huin. The four of them then have to travel through the length of Calormen across the great desert and try to reach the lands of Narnia and Archenland before tragedy happens.
Wow, good job.
Yeah, that was well summarized. If you're listening to the podcast episode and most of the things we were talking about that we enjoyed so much didn't make sense, now fit it back into that. And yeah, and there's numerous appearances of lions, one of a cat that keeps Shasta company as he spends the night alone out among the tombs, and but yeah, there is well, we find out later what the story is behind all of the felines. And it's wrapped up in a very beautiful way. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, it's and if people haven't read it, I mean, seriously, like as an adult, you can go and read it in a day or two and thoroughly enjoy it. My wife and I, we used to when I guess we were engaged. When we were first married. Sometimes we'd be on long car trips. We would read each other books. Whoever was not driving would read, and if we didn't read through all of Narnia, it was certainly some of them. I distinctly remember The Silver Chair being one of the ones you read then. But anyway, Lewis talks about how you can basically, I won't get this quote exactly, but paraphrase, it's like any story worth reading at age 10 is also worth reading at age 50, if not more so.
Yes.
Or, the idea of being old enough to read fairy tales again, as he puts in the dedication letter to A Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Yes. Oh, and everything you said about the food references, and that's part of the reason why I enjoy The Wind in the Willows.
Yeah.
And when the Pines with Jack podcast did an episode about that, they read a quote by A.A. Milne, I think it was, about how basically what a person thinks of The Wind in the Willows was his that was his barometer as far as what the litmus test for what kind of person he was meeting. Can we be friends or not? It's like, oh, you like The Wind in the Willows? Okay, they like that. That says a lot about you. So, I think Lewis wrote some similar things about it, and that when he was sick, that's what he would curl up and read. But it does make you wonder, some of the very homely food descriptions, like there or in this book with the dwarves, or Lord of the Rings, or some other things like this that maybe some influence there.
Yeah, the food is interesting because people have Hobbit parties now. I think there's so much of that just idea of comfort and homeliness. I mean, they tend to be a fall party, and it's just a comfortable and lovely thing to do and enjoy socially. But I just reread this. It had been a little while, but because I knew you were going to mention it, and the cat at night. So Shasta's the boy, and they have to go through the city, but they get separated. And so he ends up basically spending the night in a place that's clearly haunted.
Obviously.
It's a graveyard. It's tombs, and it's terrifying. I mean, to be alone at night in this place, all alone, that he doesn't know, and if they're not, his friends are going to show up or not. But that this cat comes And again, with the cats and the lion, that all to end up being the same, right? It's a providential thing, but it's not just fixed for him. It's not like, oh, you're perfectly comfortable now. Here's your dinner and a soft bed to sleep in. But the cat keeps him company, walking through this dark night. Or I mean, he's asleep there, but I mean, passing through. You know, it's something he must do, and he's not gonna fix that for him. But he is given the comfort he needs along the way, and the protection, right? It protects
Yeah.
him from, what are they,
The
jackals?
Jackals
Yeah.
who might have gotten to him at night. And yeah, even like when he's on that solo trip to Anvard after, most of the loose ends have been tied up, but not one important one. And he was like everyone else is doing great. And I'm just so like, why do I like everything bad always happens to me? And, and he's comforted and protected by the presence of Aslan himself, who listens to him when he actually has ears to hear and actually asks, and realizes he's there. And he's like again, one who has waited long for you to speak. It's like I've been open to talking for a while here, and and yeah, I think that's and I know that Narnia is not an exact allegory, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot we can take in like for Christ followers with our relationship with God. That it's like, I think that oftentimes God is one who's waited long for us to speak and to listen. There's so many things in the Narnia books. I think especially of like the end of the last battle, the whole further up and further in thing where where there's the new Narnia, and how it isn't just like some ethereal like home in the sky. It's the Narnia they know, but it's the glorified version. It's all made new, and yeah. So there's so many concepts that Lewis does write like more essay speech type work as well. It seems like he's especially at the height of his powers when he's able to take those same ideas and then put them into a story. And I think that like Jesus himself with parables, it's just we are people of story, and think of what we entertain ourselves with, whether it's Netflix or going to concerts or reading poetry or whatever else. Like we want a good story. Going to movies, like we want to entertain ourselves with stories, or like what we share when we get together is stories about things that have happened. And so good stories are important, and this is, in my opinion, one of the best.
Yeah, that song title you mentioned, Worn Thin. I was thinking about that just with Shasta being picked out of the four. He's the only one who has to go hiking in the fog, and he's exhausted already. Everybody else gets to take a break. But that idea that Aslan says, "I do not call you unfortunate," that's not how I see you. It's how you're seeing yourself internally, but that's not how Aslan saw him. And again, with the protection and that he doesn't even realize it till the next day, when he's walking back along the same path, but now the sun is out. I mean, it's really beautiful, the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, and it has sort of a happily ever after a finish to it as well, but it feels like it's well earned by the time you get there. And yeah, of course, like Rabidash, like shouting curses against the Narnians and Arkenlanders, and but he's like, but his chainmail is like hung up, and he's like, it's like
caught on a hook.
It's like a Monty Python, like Holy
yeah.
Grail, like come back here, I'll bite your legs off. It's basically what like the Black Knight situation. Even the way that Aslan chooses to handle Rabidash, who is unrepentant, he they don't put him in prison to rot or kill him in battle. Like no, like they're like, you know what, we're gonna send you back to where to land where you're from, and you're going to be healed. You're going to become a person again. But if basically you go too far outside of a certain radius, and you're going to become a donkey again, because he gets turned into a donkey, of course.
Yeah.
And goes back home as a donkey, and then miraculously changes back as Aslan said he would, and then but he ends up being peaceful because he can't be as ambitious as he wants to be. It's like a really brilliant way of letting him go about his way, but also not come over and try to conquer Narnia and be warlike like he would otherwise think. And that is not the ending I ever would have thought of for Rabidash if I was writing a story myself. It's just really it's like it's like things that Jesus does in the scriptures, really, like writing in the sand, that in the incident with the woman caught in adultery, and then saying, whoever's without sin, cast the first stone. it's like it worked its way out of a trap in a way you never would have thought. Like, yeah, which is another reason why Aslan just, is understandably and rightly considered like the Christ figure here, representative. But yeah,
Yeah, he brings justice, he brings mercy, he doesn't cheat either one, and it works out the best for everyone.
yes, well put.
For me, I love that Shasta, he doesn't have some like secret skills. I mean, he kind of makes a fool of himself in the battle, and his friends get to see it in this, magic mirror kind of thing.
Yeah,
He's still himself. So the characters are very consistent, which I appreciate. It's not like, oh, suddenly he's this great swordsman with even though he had no experience. Not so. But he does live through it and learn a bunch.
I love his horse that he gets to after Bree because he's been trained to ride by a talking horse. And the horse has been very clear, don't kick me and don't touch the reins. I've got this. And so he's really good at sitting in the saddle, but he can't like command this non-talking horse. And it doesn't think much of him. Like it just has contempt for him as a rider. And he thinks it's an idiot because it can't talk. And it's just hilarious.
yeah, that certainly is fun. Well, when you're talking about the like even the way that Lewis handles this battle, like because we're talking, because it ends up being, the battle itself is fairly violent, but he doesn't like focus on any of that or make it too scary for the kids. Like the fact that like the hermit is able to kind of call play by play as though we're like a soccer match or a baseball game or something. Like, and now, oh, there go the cheetahs, and now, oh, Shasta's down, but oh no, wait, and yeah, just like this whole. Yeah, I think it's well put because, and I think the way Lewis puts it is, like it's not worth recounting this from Shasta's perspective because, like, he quickly, lost his sword and fell down and like did not understand what was happening around him. So what an inventive way to like have it be that, that the crew back at the hermitage is kind of seeing what's happening without the sound, and that the hermit, who has a better idea of what's happening, calls the play-by-play. There's so many clearly you can tell I really enjoy this book because like as you mentioned, like, oh, what about that one part there?
Yeah.
What about when like
It's all
Aravis
good.
tells the story around the fire? It's like, oh yeah, that's really good.
Yes.
Yeah. So clearly, yeah, if you haven't read it, it is totally worth your time. It's not that long of a book either. But even if you don't, just know, I guess as a result, so much of the premise of your podcast is like, even if you haven't read the books, like here's a summary and why this is important and good, why this is a good story,
And why we love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I appreciate that, because rather than like a book club kind of situation is really good, we can read along, but if you're just like, well, I've heard of this book, like, why is this good? Why is Watership Down good? Well, listen to that if you want the shorter form than reading the entire story.
Well, it's a book about bunnies. So
Yeah, so obviously it's good. Bunnies are good. Rabbits.
it's so much more than that.
Oh, it sure is. The other one,
Yeah.
vocabulary and even theology, and
Oh, yeah.
it is a fascinating
Well,
story.
they're storytellers. We had to skip Rousby Woof, which is part of the storytelling inside of Watership Down, and they're so funny. The stories are so good.
We're still going to have to do that one as a short.
I think so. Rousby
Because we
Wolf.
did skip it. And we'll just read it because it's great.
Yeah.
And I just love that bunnies are storytellers. It makes sense in a Warren setting, and we do share through story. But I digress. I do want to mention Hwyn, it's the mare. So there's Breeze, the war horse charger, and very egotistical, full of himself. But Hwyn is the first one who approaches Aslan of the three and says, basically, I'd rather be eaten by you than away from you. Like, she is so lovely to me, and not because she's this main focal character. She's just beautiful and earnest, and I love her. So
Yeah, she
wanted to give her a
usually-
call out.
Her plan that gets used.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all throughout the book, she comes up with a plan quietly, gently, and then everyone's like, well, let's kind of come up with something better. And then they don't. And they go with what she goes with.
Yeah, well, and she was brilliant. She's maybe the only one of those four main characters that doesn't need reform in some way. Like there's literally a chapter called How Bree Became a Wiser Horse. Clearly Shasta had a lot of growing and learning to do. Aravis definitely did as well. But Hwyn, kind of like, she was already wiser than the others to start with in a lot of ways.
So Aravis, you have a song named Aravis. So
Indeed I
could
do.
you tell us a little bit about her? And I'd love it if you'd play it for us.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. And so the song Aravis, well, yeah, it's named after the female human main character in The Horse and His Boy. So she's, well, as you heard in the plot summary that Stephen really put very well, she's the Tarkina, the princess, basically. She's nobility. The song, though, is kind of an epilogue to this story. It's essentially, and I'll let you decide whose perspective, like who would be the one telling the story on this. It's definitely like a narrator situation for the verses, but the choruses could be Aravis to Shasta / Kor, or vice versa. But yeah, it's basically them looking back on their adventures together over the course of the book, the events recorded in the book. And so there's definitely references to a lot of things we've talked about. So it's a Narnian love ballad, as any songwriter would probably have at least one or two.
They should.
Or not. Yeah, so it kind of picks up with like where the story leaves off. It's because in the last page or so, Lewis kind of sums things up as far as what happens to them later on, and including how Kor's brother Corin performed his great exploit against the lapsed bear of Stormness, which was really a talking bear, but had gone back to his wild bear habits. Anyway, yeah. So like, it's the epilogue. It's like the credits are rolling in the movie, and it's like, here's where this person is now, or what happened to them after, or what have you. So it's kind of like in that section. It's like building on what's already there in the story. But I hope for this song, as well as any of the others that I have that are based on stories, is you don't have to have any prior knowledge of the stories at all, hopefully, to enjoy the song. And someone told me it's a Viennese waltz. So if any listeners want to do that while they are listening, then they may. But
we would, but we've got headphones on.
Yeah,
right. The mic, he has to be close enough to. Yeah, but maybe listen back or something. Well, and Jody, I think you had asked if I would have a quote I'd want to share. This feels like the right time to read a small part of the last full page of The Horse and His Boy. And I'll only preface this by saying that so Shasta, who we've been talking about, is the boy of The Horse and His Boy. He's a human male main character, but we find out his name is actually Kor. So when you hear Kor, we're talking about the same person as Shasta. All right, so Lewis writes, Aravis also had many quarrels, and I'm afraid even fights, with Kor, but they always made it up again. So that years later, when they were grown up, they were so used to quarreling and making it up again that they got married so as to go on doing it more conveniently. I feel like fourth grade me, probably that sailed right over my head, but as an adult, it's like, that's so much fun. It just a little, because there's humor kind of dotted throughout, like, and that's one of those times. And he goes on to talk about how, like, Kor and Aravis have a son who, like, they have a descendant who becomes like one of the great kings of Arkenland. And because, yeah, like over the course of the Chronicles of Narnia, you have like literally the beginning and the ending of Narnia, everything from it being sang into existence to the further up and further in New Narnia, which is pretty cool. And that would also make it really tough for anyone to write any more Narnia books unless they are like within those times. But so the song, again, a bit of an epilogue. So here we go. This is called Aravis. First time he laid eyes on her, she dawned like a dream on a fine-blooded mare, a voice in the trees. Now both they were running, he a peasant and poor. She would be a queen, he had a name and his horse. She was a lark midst the lindens and pines. She was a fire in the dead of the night. I won't let us die on the vine, no, I won't let us run out of time, no, I can't get you out of my mind. Oh, we've come so far, oh love, don't lose heart. Remember those days we were so young and so brave. First time she remembered, her heart turned toward his. You stood between a lion and her shaking fists. Her life flashed before her and reeled in the reins. You made her a promise she made safe away. She gave him courage to learn his true name. She saw the quiet hand guiding their way. I won't let us die on the vine. No, I won't let us run out of time. No, I can't get you out of my mind. Oh, we've come so far. Oh, love, don't lose heart. Remember those days we were so young and so brave. Once and always a promise that weathers the lashing of the rain and the wind. Brave like a song, unfolding in song once again. I won't let us die on the vine. No, I won't let us run out of time. No, I can't get you out of my mind. Oh, we've come so far. Oh, love, don't lose heart. Remember those days we were so young and so brave. So young and so brave. So young and so brave.
Yay, can we clap?
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll come up on my microphone.
Yeah, I think so. Hopefully the sound worked out okay for that.
Thank you. That was great.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Yeah, great to be able to, especially after talking about the song, about the book, I mean to say, and the song. You know, it's like, hopefully, if there's people who didn't already know the story, they heard us going on about how wonderful it is, because it is, and recognized some of the references in there. So, but just bits and pieces, snippings, vignettes from the story, and again, you can decide for yourself which of the Aravis or core might be singing the chorus. Maybe it's to each other. I don't know.
I love that the idea of zooming in on a piece of the story and making something out of it, like you mentioned earlier. Because I've never read A Horse and His Boy and thought of it, oh, it's a love story. But
Right.
you took it past that to that epilogue, to that point where, oh, they have a life to live after this.
Right.
So I think that's beautiful and very well done.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, they do grow up, and yes, they get they get married, as you know, Lewis humorously alludes to here. But yeah, clearly they have a life. Like, I don't know if I call this exactly a piece of fan fiction, but it's a bit speculative, but not that much really. Like, we know they got married and lived the rest of their lives together, and so I'm kind of like taking a piece from that, and maybe it's like a song that would show up at one of their feasts, as they would poetically tell their stories. It seems like that would be very befitting. In fact, I plan to play that song if given the chance, and probably my Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit one, Little Bird, at the Anselm Society's the long-awaited feast, Lord of the Rings Tolkien themed weekend coming up here in a little while. So there it is. Thanks for listening to my bookish love song.
We love it. Thank you for playing it for us. That was great.
Truly, in books where it's like, and they lived happily ever after because they got married. Like, wait, that's like the stuff we want to know more about.
Yeah, tell me more about what life in Arkenland was like after this.
Yeah, their whole actual life part. So, no, very good. Brother, do you have anything? I have a couple more questions to wrap up, but if you have anything else.
One of your songs I've been listening to that I love, and I didn't realize this came from somewhere else, is the I Don't Want to Live on the Moon. I've been listening to you play that over and over. I didn't know that was a Sesame Street song.
Oh, yeah. It's my son's favorite song. So Ernie sings it which means that Jim Henson sings it in the original version from it's probably early 80s, maybe late 70s. I remember growing up and it was on Sesame Street when I was a kid. And there's actually a numerous version. There's a more recent version that it's like animated. There's also a version in between with the velvety voiced singer Aaron Neville joining, like a duet with him and Ernie. Yes, he have the face tattoo and the The touch, the feel of cotton voice. That's it's actually it's really well done. They're singing it together, like Aaron Neville and Ernie are like sitting on a park bench and like looking up at the sky. And anyway, yeah. So my son, who's minimally verbal, has autism, is epilepsy, is also incredibly cheerful. Like just one of the most joyful people that I know. It's a song that he really enjoys. It has since he was a kid, but honestly, he still likes it, and I still like it. So
Well, I've been loving it, so
yeah,
you can let him know. It's been one of my favorites over the last few days. I've really been listening to it and enjoying it a lot.
I could play that one as a live as a bonus, perhaps. But
I mean, I like personal concerts. So.
I mean, we hate to keep you here for too long.
Yeah, I don't want to take up your whole day,
you wanna
but
but I mean, if you're offering, it's gonna
if you're offering,
yeah, I'd be glad to play that one too. One thing that so especially some years ago, but even now, if we're looking at the book version of this, because there is a book that's literally just exactly the song, but has charming, like wonderful pictures to it. So, well, okay, so my son doesn't really, he loves music, loves listening to it, but doesn't quite get pitch or like how to sing. But one of the things we'll do is we'll like I'll be playing a song and like pause a bit and let him fill in what the lyric would be, and he'll say it. Sometimes he gets really excited if it's like, oh, I know this one. And so there's one in particular near the end of this song where there's the word star featured prominently. And so he'll like, I'll leave the blank there and he'll like point at the picture in the book, or has before, and go star. So if you want to do it when we get there, then that would be just great. So
that's you.
All right. So yeah,
Not it.
it is one of, well, you don't have to sing it. You can just say star.
great point.
Yeah. Well, and you're welcome to point too. I still won't come through on the audio, but it's all good. But I'll see it and I'll appreciate it. So, all right. So this is this is one of two Muppet covers that I've released. The other one is I'm Going to Go Back There Someday, the Gonzo song from the Muppet movie. So if I ever, like, I'm 2 songs into a Muppet cover album. My friend Corey Morgan jokes, I think she's joking, about like what the next song will be for that. But anyway, so here we go.
So one thing before you start playing that I was wondering about this, back before I knew this was a Sesame Street song, I was wondering if this was a Rover Random reference. Because the dog goes to the moon and then goes to the bottom of the sea, the Tolkien short story.
Oh, no.
And then I wondered if you added the jungle because you needed a third verse, but I was wrong, clearly. But
Yeah, do you know
it made me
Rover?
think about
Do you
that
know
one.
Rover Random?
No, I've
Oh,
not read it.
It's so good.
Tolkien short story, wouldn't take too long. Basically, it was a story he made up for his son because his son had a little toy dog that they lost at the seashore. So, like you do, he made up a story of all the adventures this toy dog went on, which is why he wasn't there anymore. And it's great. So, Rover Random, recommend.
All right. Well, very cool. Yeah. So, all right. I Don't Want to Live on the Moon. Here it is. Well, I'd like to visit the moon on a rocket ship high in the air. Yes, I'd like to visit the moon, but I don't think I'd like to live there. Though I'd like to look down at the earth from above, I would miss all the places and people I love. So although I might like it for one afternoon, I don't want to live on the moon. I'd like to travel under the sea. I could meet all the fish everywhere. Yes, I'd travel under the sea, but I don't think I'd like to live there. Though I like to stay for a day there if I had my wish. But there's not much to do when your friends are all fish, and an oyster and clam aren't real family. So I don't want to live in the sea. I'd like to visit the jungle, hear the lion roar, go back in time and meet a dinosaur. There's so many strange places I'd like to be, but none of them permanently. So if I should visit the moon, well, I'll dance on a moonbeam, and then I will make a wish on a
Star.
and I'll wish I was home once again. Though I'd like to look down at the earth from above, I would miss all the places and people I love. So although I may go, I'll be coming home soon. 'Cause I don't want to live on the moon. No, I don't want to live on the moon.
Yay!
Lovely.
So, yeah.
Thank you for humoring me.
Oh,
That was
absolutely, yeah. So, So if I play that at a concert, then you have all the other influences said, and then Sesame Street. Yeah. Anyway, what fun. Thanks for listening in the first place, but also just requesting that one.
So, one more thing, Matt, before we let you go for today. But if someone were to read A Horse and His Boy or Narnia in general, or honestly, any of these stories that you've been talking about, is there something that you hope they'd really get out of it, take with them from it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few different things I'd say in general. But yeah, from this particular one, that we are playing a role in in a larger story, that there is a larger story happening, and that's very clear as you read through this story, The Horse and His Boy. But I mean, it's true in our own lives too. It's maybe harder to see it. It's not all wrapped up in 200 pages, but because we get glimpses, which especially if you read this book more than one time, you come back, you see certain things, you're like, oh yeah, that was happening there, because now I know what the ending was. And yeah, I mean, generally the other thing that's a really big theme in my music tends to be wonder, how God has built wonder all around us. I talked about being old enough to read fairy tales again, and just being curious and noticing things, to, as Mary Oliver, the poet, put it, in her instructions for a good life or something like that, where it's pay attention, be astonished, tell about it. Or to quote Rich Mullins once more, there's so much beauty around us for just two eyes to see, but everywhere I go, I'm looking. Just having the eyes to see the wonders God's built all around us in nature, in other people, in his plan and design for our own lives. I think those are overarching themes in my own music, and also in pretty much every one of the stories that I've referenced here. I would say that's my answer to the question.
All right, very good. So where can people find you and your content?
So my website's mattwheeleronline.com. That's one place, but then basically if people look up my first and last name, Matt Wheeler, and on any of the streaming and download services, most of them at least, they'll find my music. I have a beard, and in maybe some of the pictures, a flat cap, maybe not. Anyway, yeah. So if you see bookish looking titles accompanying, that's probably me. I know there's a few Matt Wheelers out there, but and I'm on Instagram with at Matt Wheeler VH. I used to be in a band called Matt Wheeler and Vintage Heart. Yeah, various other places I write sometimes for the Rabbit Room. Search my name, and any of the stories you've looked at, talked about, there's a pretty good chance you'll be able to find it on the internet.
I've really enjoyed some of your black and white series I found on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
so that's where I went.
Yeah. For 3 years, I was doing a cover song each month with a black and white filter, hence the name. And started with the John Foreman song "Your Love Is Strong," and I think "I Don't Want to Live on the Moon" was the second month. This was during the pandemic, and so yeah, I mean, I was doing lots of things online and had the time and the inspiration. So for I think it's 36 editions of that. So yeah, check it out if you want. It's a bit of a deep dive, but there's some fun stuff there. And yeah, thank you for having me on and for listening.
Hey, thank you for joining us. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really, really been a privilege to have you with us today. And with that, we'll turn the page, and we hope you join us for the next chapter.